So once again, I welcome you all to this very special 157th session of Leadership Talks. As you know, that these sessions are being organized by India International Education Council and Schoology Solutions. India International Education Council is a not-for-profit organization which is working in the field of education. It has collaborators from 12 countries. It aims to create a better world through education. IIEC aims to create a better world through education. It is also building quality centers for elementary education, approachable for all kids, finding the best educational practices across the globe and find ways to implement those in Indian institutions. It is also creating more awareness on hygiene and learning disabilities. It publishes a magazine called World Education Review and many other educational reports. It aims to build 100 chapters in different cities by 2022. It will soon open its membership for institutions and individuals.
Rajulji, you are not audible.
I'm not audible?
Now you're audible.
Right, sir. So now, as you know that we have so far conducted 156 sessions. I'm just going to share a brief report on those sessions.
Again, you are not audible, sir.
I hope I'm audible now. So
Yes.
as you have seen that we have organized so far 156 sessions, we have received 19,641 registrations, 18,362 questions. We have received participation from 8 countries: India, USA, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Nepal, Kuwait, Russia, and Seychelles. From India, we have seen participation from 23 states and 129 cities. We aim to organize minimum 200 sessions. With this, we would be reaching out to 100,000 educators, 20,000 institutions, and 1,000 plus eminent speakers. Like today's speakers would be joining us to share their perspective and ideas on national education policy. Now, I would request you all, please join me in welcoming our key speakers for this very special session. Our first speaker, a very senior education leader, Sunil Kumar Kala sir. Sunil sir is principal with any school, Mohali, Punjab, having experience of 30 years in teaching, administration, and management of school activities. He is an MSc, MA Economics, MA Education, MA Psychology, B.Ed, ICT, NIIT, DST, DMT, PG, DHE. He is a member of various prestigious NGOs and organizations of national repute, like Association of Principal, ISFI, and also Paryavaran Mitra, Center for Environment Education under Government of India, International Society for Environment Information Science, EAI Club, which is working in the field of renewable energy. India, he's been working as a volunteer with the United Nations. He has also been guiding the Doon Valley International School, which is affiliated to CBSE, a senior secondary school. He has worked as principal with various prestigious schools like Maharaja Agrisen Public School, KP Public School, Doon Hills Academy, Doon Valley Public School, SGRR Public School, Doon Valley Public School, Dehradun. He is also the member of inspection committee for affiliation. He is also working as a city coordinator of National Testing Agency under MHRD. We welcome you, Sunil sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next speaker, another senior education leader, Kavita Soni ji. Kavita ji is founder principal with Venkateshwara Global School, Rohini, New Delhi. Kavita ji has an MA B.Ed and is the founding principal with Venkateshwara Global School, Rohini, since 2008. She has a wide range of administrative and teaching experience with students at different levels. With an experience of more than 2.5 decades, she is an enterprising, energetic, hardworking, dedicated, focused, and a result-oriented professional in the field of education, and remains forever committed to contribute positively to her work with a penchant for learning, experimenting, and sharing. Her contribution to ELT is noteworthy. She has been an ESOL examiner with British Council, University of Cambridge, developed content for the Teachers Resource Pack for the Oxford University Press, and is series editor for English course content for Indianica. She has authored an English book for beginners, as well based on learning an English alphabet the phonic way. She's an English language trainer. We welcome you, Kavita ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next key speaker, another senior education leader, J.M. Rawat sir. Rawat sir is former deputy commissioner with Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan. He is now based out of Jaipur, Rajasthan. He has an MSc Physics, MA Hindi, MA English, and MBA HR. He has experience as a PhD Physics for 16 years. He has worked as principal for 7 years, deputy commissioner for 10 years, and director for 2 years. He was awarded by Honorable President of India, then Honorable President of India, Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma ji, on International Literacy Day in 1996. He has also received National Incentive Award of KBS as teacher in 1999 and National Incentive Award of KBS as Deputy Commissioner in 2013. We welcome you, Rawat sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Our next key speaker, another very leading personality in education, Major retired CU Munappa sir. Munappa sir is principal with Shri Vivekananda International School, Hassan, Karnataka. He joined Indian Army Para Commando as soldier in April 1979. He was graduated from JNU through Army Cadet College, Dehradun, to join Indian Military Academy, Dehradun. He had his first posting as captain to Indian peacekeeping forces in Sri Lanka. He took VRS in 2000 to pursue a career in the field of academics. He has worked with many prestigious schools in leadership capacity like Nasser School, Hyderabad, Kaveri Public School, Mandya, ICFI National College, Hassan, Nagarjuna Group of Institutions, Devanhali. As a trainer, he conducts personality development workshops across the country. Welcome you, Munappa sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir. Our next speaker, Dr. R.P. Pandey. Dr. Pandey is assistant professor with SRM University. He's assistant professor in Department of Biotechnology, Microbiology, and Biomedical Engineering. He was a FAPESP postdoctoral fellow, which is a very prestigious fellowship of Latin America. He was a research associate at the Translational Health Sciences and Technology Institute. He did his doctorate degree in 2014 from University of Delhi and TACF, Tuberculosis Aerosol Challenge Facility at the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology. He did his MSc in Biotechnology from the School of Biotechnology, Jawaharlal Nehru University. He's on the editorial board with more than 10 journals and editor-in-chief of Indian Journal of Hospital Infection. He has been awarded with the DST Government of India Young Scientist Award, Senior Research Fellowship from Indian Council of Medical Research, Indian Immunology Society Young Scientist Award, European Federation of Immunological Societies Travel Award, British Society of Immunology Travel Award. We welcome you, Dr. Pandey. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir. And our last key speaker for this very special session, a very senior active leader, Jaswinder Singh ji. Jaswinder ji is founder and CEO of Wordsworth ELT. He's an experience of 30 years in the field of education and technology and has also served as a consultant to UNESCO on education. Wordsworth English Lab is designed for India and is highly research initiative of the ACT UNIV Group. It is a trusted education company with 2 decades of service in technology, education and training. Its expertise in technology, multimedia and content development has been instrumental in presenting a world-class language lab solution for academia in India. In a short span of time, Wordsworth English Language Lab has managed considerable recognition across the country for its unique content and methodology. Over 3,000 installations in institutions across the country stand testimony of the quality in product, implementation, training, and the continual service provided by ACT UNIV and its committed network of leaders. We welcome you, Jaswinder sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, Raju.
Welcome, sir. So with this, we come to the next part of the session, which is the opening remark part. I now would invite all our key speakers one by one for your opening remark. And then I'll come back to you for your main talk. So first, I would request Sunil sir, sir, if we can have your 1-minute opening remark.
Welcome everyone. Good morning. So today we are here for National Education Policy and have some words about it to know the pros and cons. So better we all are experienced and in the field of education, we will find out some solution and the way to get all the things in a systematic way.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. I'll come back to you. Now, I would request Rawat sir, if we can have your opening remark.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It's really praiseworthy to have such organizations having such seminars. And I put on record my gratitude to International Education Council for adding my name in the panel of educationists to discuss new education policy. And it is irony that in our country, after independence, we have only 3 education policies, while education needs to be reviewed timely. And it is third one, which has come after 34 years of second. So I hope this new education policy will bring changes in right perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I'll come back to you for your detailed perspective. Now, I would invite Munappa sir, sir, if we can have your opening remark.
Good morning to everybody. Now, we all have understood by this time, now this NEP is basically going to replace the present system of 10+2, what we have, starting from giving importance to the primary level of education. So we are going to discuss once again. I think I'll get a chance to speak again, I think. So basically this is importance is given to the primary level, and a child at say 6th standard will have the choice to choose what he wants to do. So this is really a good this thing, as the previous speaker brought it out. After a long time, we have going to go for a change in the education. I'm sure it is going, if it is implemented properly and everybody cooperates, because here what happens is it is a concurrent list. It is state and central government both gets involved. If it comes into effect, it is going to be really good. I'm sure it will be helpful for the next younger generation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. We are very excited with your presence, and I'll come back to you for your detailed perspective. Now, I would request Dr. R.P. Pandey, sir, if we can have your opening remark.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting in this panel discussion. It's my privilege to discuss about new education policy. This is really important for the country, which is going to be changed after more than 34 years, because we need to have a skilled India. But again, I would say that this is not easy process. This is challenging. But at the same time, we are hopeful that the things will be implemented and we will have a scientific country to challenge this type of pandemic. So again, I will discuss when my time will come. Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Pandey, and very good morning to you too. Now I would invite Jaswinder Singh sir, if we can have your opening remark.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Pleasure to be a part of this eminent team of speakers on this panel. Yes, this is a huge change that the government is bringing in. I call this as a disruptive policy, but disruptive to the positive side. So I'm going to discuss on how do we use, because I come from a technology and education background, I'm going to discuss how do we use technology to achieve things which are important, the milestones that have been put forward to by the policymakers. How do we achieve that? Secondary is, I come from the language field. So how do we actually see the introduction of mother tongue or local language as the initial medium of instruction for the foundation years? How do we work on that, and what are going to be the effects, both positive and the other ones? So I look forward to the second part of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaswinder sir. I'll come back to you for your detailed perspective. And now with this, we come to the next part of the session, which is the main talk part. I would now invite all our key speakers one by one for their detailed perspective. But before I invite our first key speaker, I just would like to share the learnings which we have had during our last 156 sessions. During our last 156 sessions, almost every participant shared that this is a wonderful document. This document has a potential to place India at that coveted position of Vishwa Gyan Guru. But at the same time, almost same number of participants said this is a very, very ambitious document and going to be very, very challenging in terms of execution. And that is the key. lot of people also cited the example of CCE, that it was also a wonderful initiative, but got failed due to poor execution. Many believe that finance is going to be a key concern area. The lack of finance is going to be a key concern area. Many believe teachers training is a concern area. Many educators who participated said, yes, teachers training is a concern area, but the bigger concern area would be lack of motivation and intent among teachers to get trained. Lot of senior educators also shared their assessment that this pandemic has exposed the poor distribution of digital infrastructure in our country. And that is going to be another big challenge. Many believe that many good schools in urban areas already implementing many of these ideas. So big challenge would be for the rural school, budget school and government school. Lot of people who participated also shared that the lack of vocational skill was a challenge, and this NEP is talking about it. But the arranging logistics for those vocational skills at school level would be a challenge. So, I would request you all that while sharing your perspective, if you can also suggest, one idea of your suggestions or some thoughts or some best practices which you have been implementing in your respective institution. So that would make us learn from each other and would make this session more engaging and useful for all of us. So with that thought, I would also request all of you that please keep the time limit in mind, at 10 minutes per speaker, so that we have sufficient time in the end for the questions. So now with this, I would request our first key speaker, Sunil sir. Sunil sir, if we can have your detailed perspective, over to you.
Gentlemen, as everyone said that it's very important to go through the NEP and what we have gone through, and especially personally, I have seen that there is a challenge. And the first challenge is that the proper implementation and how. The thing is this, we are having, one of the gentlemen from this scenario said that government, semi-government and private schools. So we need to coordinate, number one. Number two, we are saying language. We know that Japan, France are teaching in their own language. So it's very important. We must go through our mother tongue. But India is having different languages. Suppose I'm running a school in Punjab and I'm running hostel. I'm having kid from Assam. I'm having kid from, you can say, Chennai or whatever region of the India. So it will be a challenge for we people to tackle all these things. Number two. Number three, we are saying that is class 10th exam finished. The kids or the child will give only exam at the level of class 12th. So what experience we have seen while we are having CCE in class 10th, the child is passing class 10th with CGP 10, CGP 9, whatever it may be. In those years, we have seen the result of the class 12th. And the last and another important thing is this. The way we are training our teachers, the scenario, we are using, while a child is, or a teacher, a student is doing B.Ed from an institute, is using Blackboard. Even we are having a digital classroom, virtual classroom, but our B.Ed content is far back. बहुत पीछे अभी हमारा B.Ed content. We have to go through all this. We must have some things in the training session. It is another matter that the government of India, state government, or we can say that some NGO and this platform, which we are this way, we are giving training. But B.Ed session or the B.Ed content, B.Ed scenario must be changed so that we can have the good teachers in future. We are having CTET and TET. So we know that what percentage we are getting from there. So this is my preview. Rest the others experience people will share. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil sir. Sunil sir talked about one key challenge. A lot of other educators have also shared similar views. The lack of and the poor content for teachers training. And this NEP has given a huge emphasis upon the teachers training. It is proposing a lot of reforms, be it 4-year integrated B.Ed program or 50 hours compulsory training programs for teachers and leaders. So this NEP promises, in a big way in that regard. So big thanks, Sunil sir. I would come back to you with questions.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. And now I would request JM Rawat sir, sir, if you can have your perspective.
Good morning again. This new national policy on education 2020 has four parts to cover four dimensions of our education. The first part is school education. Second one is higher education. Third part of this policy is other key areas such as adult education, promoting Indian languages and online education. And fourth part is the implementation. I would like to limit myself to the primary education because it is neglected since a long. Although the government and NGOs have done sincere efforts to improve this gray area of our education, but the current situation of primary and pre-primary education is still a challenge. Very big number of students, big number of children in the age group of 3 to 8 are not enrolled in any pre-primary school. So far as the weaker section of society is concerned, the parents are not able to get their children enrolled in any system of pre-primary education and primary education. The private schools admit the children for LKG and UKG classes, but they charge a good amount as a fee, which is not affordable for the parents of weaker section. It is established fact that 85% of development of the individual brain is completed before the age of 6. And see the irony that this part of development of individual is neglected since a long, and the government has first time taken care of early childhood care and education in an appropriate way. This had been already in various documents of education, but it was not properly implemented and there was no scheme to implement it. During inspection of schools, I have seen that a big number of students in primary classes have not achieved minimum level of learning. They are not able to read, not able to write, or they are not having sufficient computation efficiency, which is required to be achieved by each and every child after 5 years of schooling. This learning outcome is really very shameful for our system and need to be addressed. So the question is not only the enrollment in ECCC, early childhood care and education, but also to retain the students in this system and to ensure the minimum level of learning by each and every child. And in that way, NEP 2020 envisions the latest techniques and teaching practices such as playway method, learning by doing, activity-based learning. But all these terms had already been in the system. We have heard these terms, we have talked about them, but we have not implemented them. So most important part is the implementation of the proper way of teaching, proper practices to be involved in curricular transaction, the regular training of teachers, as already said by Kala sir. This is also very important. Preschool, pre-service and in-service training are very important. I had also been director of Zonal Institute of Education and Training, and I have observed that the training modules need to be revised continuously. They had not been revised, and after the training, the teachers are not implemented what they have learned during the training program. And it is really very discouraging for all of us. that whatever is learned during the training program, they forgot it, or they are not implementing this technique, this skill they have learned. So in that way, we implemented some follow-up action. We got the report from the principals, and whether it is being implemented in a proper way, or what is the change in the accomplishment of the teaching of individual teacher, and accountability was fixed. So if this is done, the implementation of NEP 2020 demands our full attention and cooperation from each section of our society. There is provision of funds by enhancing the allocation of funds from 4.43% to 6% of GDP. But it has been learned from various documents, and it has been the promise of the government since a long. It has not been implemented till date. Hope it will be implemented. And the funds are properly utilized. They are utilized to have good quality of infrastructural facilities in the Anganwadi centers, pre-primary centers, and primary education schools. Nutritive foods and health care for each and every child is ensured. Proper toilets, playgrounds, and play equipments are installed. And qualified, trained, and dedicated teachers. This is very important area. Such teachers to ensure learning through joyful experience of the child, because learning cannot be ensured just by teaching. Teaching has become obsolete concept. We have to apply certain new trends of education to ensure learning through joyful experience of the child, and proper implementation of all activities in these centers will certainly bring a sea change in the present system. And I hope it will be done, because we have seen the commitment of the government earlier also, and hope this government will be committed for the education area also. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rawat sir, for sharing these valuable inputs. You began by highlighting the importance of early years, and we all agree with you, sir. In fact, after organizing so many sessions, after being part of so many sessions, I've realized that one thing this NEP has already achieved, that it has created a mass awareness about the importance of these years. Now, a lot of people are talking about it. Now, people have formally recognized the importance of these years. You also talked about that NEP's focus on these years is highly laudable. You also talked about teachers training. You shared your own examples there. So big thanks, Rawat sir, for joining and sharing your thoughts. I would come back to you with questions. Thank you, sir. And now I would request Munappa sir. Meanwhile, we have been joined by Anita ma'am, Principal MVM Jean. Welcome, Anita ma'am, for joining.
Thank you.
Welcome, ma'am. And now I would request Munappa sir, if we can have your detailed perspective.
Yeah. Once again, good morning to everybody. Now, basically, we have heard what exactly it is. So, as in my opening remark, I said, this is replacing 10+2 system, starting from say 5+3+3+4. So, one major thing here is that government is trying to include primary education, starting from what we in South we call it as Anganwadi, that is pre-primary school, to coming to say by the time they reach up to grade 6th or so, they will have the option to choose what they want. This is one very important thing. I have been taking some classes for the students for career options. Students, when they are in 12th standard, what to talk of 12th standard, when they are in degree, you just ask them a casual question, what do you want to do next? The prompt answer would be, I'll see. So when will they see? Because they just completed 10th standard, they have completed 12th standard. They don't know which college they are going, what options they are taking, just because some of their friends are taking and they are going. College also, which college they want to do. Here, 6th standard, when they come, they can choose what exactly they want. If a student is good at music or arts, they can take it up. But the challenges what we find here is, will a 6th standard child be able to make a decision? There, everybody, teachers, parents, everybody need to support him and help him so that he comes, by the time he comes to 8th standard, 9th standard, 10th standard, he knows what exactly he has to do. The other thing which is talked about is teachers training. Now today we're with about 20 years heading various educational institutions. What I have is in mind is that we have about 3 category of teachers. One is by choice, very few. Another one is by chance. And the main category what we have is by force. Of everything else is over, let's go and teach in this school. Now this present policy which government is planning to envisage, which I think after some time they are going to make it mandatory, like say 4 years of engineering. There's a 4 years of integrated B.Ed degree course which they are going to plan. That is really going to be helpful, so that at least some of the people, some of the teachers, they would have decided in their early ages, yes, we want to take up teaching as a career, and then they will be able to improve their technical knowledge and various other things. Not exactly like what is happening today. And then one more thing which I have gone through in this, in the higher education, earlier the students, after about 3 years, a student doing engineering, if he or she drops out for any reason, that 3 years is gone. That this present policy, what is showing here, what is coming into implement is, even if a child or a student is done 1 year, he is going to get one certification. 2 years he'll get diploma. Like that, even after 3 years, if he is passed out, he can, or he is dropped out, he can get a job or he can get into some of his. Now the main thing, what as Dr. Rawat or various other speakers told, how it is going to be implemented. Now the language policy. Most of the states, they feel that language is a prestige issue. Just because it is not that what actually literature they have to learn, what education they have to learn. That is not the point which they consider into. That is actually mostly it is politicized with everybody. Now I belong to Karnataka. Now every politician children are studying somewhere in Ooty, and here they say that you have to study. I'm making a statement openly today for that. I'm a Pakka Kannadiga. I love Kannada. But then yes, if our children have to do well further, they have to learn English. But that is one major point which is going to be considered into. So I'm sure if, as all of us said, if it is implemented in the coming years, it is going to be really benefited. I'm sure. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Rajulji, you are on mute.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Big thanks, Munappa sir, for your participation and your valuable thoughts. We all agree with you, sir, and a lot of other educators have also shared similar views that this 4-year integrated program, B.Ed program, would create huge impact. You also talked about the impact of mother tongue, and but we should not dilute the importance of English. Many believe, though Jaswinder sir have participated in various other sessions, and he have made it very clear that this policy is not an attempt to dilute the importance of English. In fact, it is increasing the importance of this universal language of communication. So with this, now I would invite Jaswinder sir to you directly, if you can have your perspective before I go to R.P. Pandey sir. Jaswinder sir.
Yeah, thank you, Rajuji. I've been listening to all the eminent panelists, and one point is very clear, that we are all talking about teacher training. We are all worried about the quality of teachers, because whatever policy may be brought in, if we don't have the right kind of teachers, this is going to be again, what we've been doing on the last years. Major sir, I second you on the point that language should not be a political issue. It should be a language to acquire knowledge, right? Language allows us to access information, and language allows us to convert information into knowledge. And that is the way a language should be looked at. Everybody should be very close to one's mother tongue. That is important, because being connected to the roots is very important. I strongly put onto that. But before I come to language, I would want to first start with the teachers and training. See, we have to understand that we have got 14 million teachers in our country. Now, this is a huge number of teachers. How do we train so many teachers, and that too in a country like ours, which has got different geographical situations? I have worked on a project in Uttarakhand. Sunil sir, since you have worked in Uttarakhand, you know Haldwani and
Yes, yes, yes.
Dehradun and 4 or 5 places are okay. The rest places even going and approaching this thing. I have set up language labs in all the ITIs of Uttarakhand, and you know what? There is one teacher ITI, one room ITI. So what we need to understand is, though we require all the teachers to get trained, how do we train them? It is a challenge. So the first thing that I would want to put up, being from the technology bend of mine, is the first training that we need to deliver to all our teachers is how to use the right kind of IT tools to access information. If we train our teachers how to use different tools to access information and learn on their own, most of our work is be done, because internet today already reaches 80% of our country. And I'm sure after this pandemic, the government too has realized that the way electricity has to reach everywhere, internet too has to reach, because most of our work governance is through internet. So this has to be done. So once we train our teachers on how to use the right kind of tools, later on they can get trained on their own, because government is coming up with such portals, right? So that is, and you know what, the training has to be constant. Just a 50-hour training is not going to work. The training has to be over and over and over again. It has to be every time a teacher needs. You can't say today is your training day. The teacher decides today I want to know this more. And since there is all going to be on the digital format, the teacher can learn at the, at whatever time she wants or he wants, whichever place and whichever condition they want to do it. So that is something that is very important, that we need to let all our teachers know how to use technology so that they can go to the next level. That is one very important thing. And we have seen during the pandemic, these teachers have shown their will to get trained. Even if there are teachers who ask their own kids, tell me how to do this. And if they were open, and no doubt, we should applaud their whatever efforts they put in, they have at least achieved certain bit. What we need to do is train them to the next bit, and then let them on their own and tell them this is what you need, and they will get trained. But there's one more important thing we need to understand. Why I say technology is important for teachers. See, today's teachers, they are teaching students whose pace they cannot match. Right, sir? Major sir, Sunil sir, Rawat sir, and Pandey sir, this is something we all need to understand. Today's generation is a technology resident generation, and we are technology migrants.
Agreed.
technology में आए हैं. ये तो they were born with a mobile in their lap.
Not and born.
Right? So, I mean, they were born using technology. Let me also say that. Right? So what we need to do is, we will never be able to match their pace. So what we have to do, we have to stop being a sage on the stage and go become a facilitator. Nowhere is it written that a teacher should know everything. But a teacher should know where to find everything. That means using internet in the correct form. What I say is, you learn how to use internet so that you can get information, and using your brains, convert that information into knowledge. There's a huge difference between information and knowledge. Let me give you a simple example. How, with the minimum use of technology, how can we teach better in the class? That's important. So we've all heard about flipped classrooms. I'll give you a simple example. What happens in a flipped classroom? And if our teachers are trained to do that, they would love, and these students will. I'll just take you a simple example. Say if I am a geography teacher and today I have to teach them on volcanoes, what would I do? I would go to the class and say chapter number 5, volcanoes, and blah 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 blah. I download everything. So it's a one-way communication. Students are listening. If they want to listen, they are able to understand, or they are not able to understand. That's up to them. And what they do is, what they don't understand, they simply mug it up. So that's what is happening. But now, instead of that, if I say that tomorrow I'm going to take up this session on volcanoes, and I want each one of you, there are 40 students or 30 students, I want each one of you to get me 10 lines on volcanoes. What will happen? As soon as the students go back home, the first thing that they're going to do is straight Google it out. But there's a problem. When they Google volcanoes, they will not get 10 lines. They will get 10,000 lines. And that is where the skill comes in, that they have to read that, they have to skim that, they have to scan that and come out. So first, very important thing, we need to make sure that our students form a habit of reading, and which unfortunately, see, our company works with 1 million students every day across 3,000 schools in the country on the language skills. And we have realized that increasingly reading is going down. Increasingly reading is going down, which is bad, which is really, I mean, it's a cause of concern. So we need to see to it as educationists that reading as a habit is formed. Anyway, coming back to this, they will read, they will skim, they'll scan, and they will come out with their own 10 lines. So the next day, the whole class comes in, 30 of them come in, and each student is supposed to get up and present his points. So first, the skill that they learn is presentation skills, which is very important today. They have to get up, use a PowerPoint, use anything, present what they've got. One. Second, they have to speak about it, communication skills. Third, they have to listen to others and collaborate with them. So collaborative rules and peer group learning, which is the most important thing, if you know, sir, that today students learn better from their friends. And with this, what happens is they all come to a common consensus and then put forward what they have come up with. And the teacher has to be a facilitator to see that this learning happens. For this, you don't need internet. You don't need much of technology. You just need internet. And today internet is available even on a phone. So that's what I say is what we need to do, what we need to look upon is this, is that we train them to use simple technical technology-based tools and get their work done. Because tomorrow, the textbooks are going to go off. Understand, textbooks limit learning. We have to open them up. We have to go beyond. And because we are now going to face the world, India is opening up to other universities. 100 top universities will come in. So our students should know beyond textbooks. We can't rely on just the textbook. It has to go beyond. So this is one simple thing if schools practice, and it is no big deal. You don't need any big training. You just need the intent to do it, and that can be taken up. So that's what I talk about when I'm talking about teacher training. So that's an important part, and we need to work on that. Coming on to my second part is language. So panelists, I come from the language background where we work on language improvement of schools. Chinnappa sir, I have worked in Hassan and Chikmagalur on a project with the government of Karnataka. So I was working in the ITIs of that, and we were training. Anyway, so we realized that language has a big challenge. But let's take up the first thing. What NEP 2020 talks about is, it says that during the early foundation years, if we teach them using a language that they understand, language which they are comfortable, which is their mother tongue or the local language, it's going to work out good. And I second that. I'm so happy that has been brought up. Understand. What happens is, in an English medium school, currently what we do is, on one side we're teaching them how to comprehend in English, and the other side we are teaching them core subjects in English. That poor child has still not understood how to comprehend. So if the core subjects, now very important, if the core subjects are taught in the local language, it will do good to the child. He will not feel burdened. He will not move away from school. He will not cry when he comes to school. And that's what is important. But nowhere does NEP 2020 say that you have to teach only in the mother tongue. You can choose to teach in English. But what would I do? I would teach them in the local language, but I would also bring up the other language, that is English. So both should be taught at the same level. Understand one thing, that a child by the age of 8 can acquire up to 5 languages. We are talking about only 3. NEP talks about 3 language formula. And what is this 3 language formula? One simple thing is your local language, your mother tongue, right? So Chennappa sir, since you picked up the point, we talk about Kannada. So let the foundation and the early foundation and the core subjects be taught in Kannada, but then we also give them the foreign language, that is English, at that same level. And third, we expose them to the classical language, that is Sanskrit. Now, how does this work? Why is this going to work? Local language, I understand my concepts clear. I don't get scared about what I'm learning. That's one. But not only that, I also get to know the local heritage. I also respect the local language. A lot of Indian languages are very old. In fact, Tamil is the oldest language in the world, right? So obviously there's much more information available there, much knowledge. Second, English, we need to work with the world, we need to communicate with the world, and we need to access information. 90% of information on the internet is in English. So we need to work onto that. And classical language, it will make us first nationalist. What we need to be is become more nationalist, understand where we are and what our country is all about. Second, if we know Sanskrit language or such classical languages, we will be able to dig deep into those scriptures. There's such a lot of knowledge, not information, knowledge buried in there. Students need to do it. And believe me, you don't learn a language, you don't teach a language, you acquire a language. So all that the teacher needs to do is to create an environment. And if that is created, language can be acquired very easily. Sunil sir, Chennappa sir, Rawat sir, and Pandey sir, I am glad to tell you that we as a company have come out with a Sanskrit lab. Imagine Sanskrit, and when we started creating that language, that lab, we realized it's such an easy language. It's such a logical language. So it is time that we look at Indian languages also. One foreign language is good enough. You can go for second language if it's your interest. But one foreign language, one local language, and one classical language, that's a beautiful way of, telling the world that is there. Rightly said, if Japan can teach in their own language, why can't we? That doesn't mean we don't teach in English. So right from first year, we say all 3 languages put up. And one very important thing, a child, if he or she uses 3 or more languages, their brain works better. They think better. They are culturally better. They will understand the others' cultures also better. And imagine one line, they use 3 languages and still make logical meaning out of it. That's logic. So we should work on the 3 languages thing, and it is not going to be a burden. If you use technology to acquire better skills, that is all possible. And with internet, nothing can, do that. So I would conclude here by saying that NEP 2020, what they've thought about languages is excellent. Yes, people have a point of, that political point. We should go beyond that. And, if a child loves languages, let him do 3-4 languages. I know one person who knows 16 languages. 16 languages, Indian and foreign. If a person can do it, and he is no superhuman. So at least 3 would be something that we should be working on. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaswinder sir, for sharing the importance of technology and language and how it would create impact and how we need to empower our teachers to utilize these 2 important tools effectively. So big thanks for your participation. And now I see that Dr. Pandey had just left due to some technical glitch. He would be joining us back. So meanwhile, after this, meanwhile, Dr. Pandey join us back. I'll just share my screen for a minute. And after that, we'll go to the last part of the session, which is the question part. I've already received many questions. I would start presenting these questions to all of you. But before that, I'll just share my screen for a minute. I would just like to share what exactly we have been doing at School Lalaji Solutions. So I'll share my screen for a minute here. School Lalaji Solutions. Some of you are already aware with School Lalaji Solutions. We are India's largest one-stop solution platform for educational institutions. We are present in more than 45 cities, working with somewhere around 4,500 institutions. We help educational institutions in 3 ways. We help them in buying right thing from right people at right price. We also help them in selling their old stuff, like their old buses, generators, furniture. We also help institutions in raising money. That may be in terms of loan or fee financing. Why any educational institution would need a platform like School Lalaji Solutions? You already have your old suppliers, your team is expert, you believe you're getting good discounts. So why you need a platform like Schoology. There are two main reasons. One is the discount, because we give them bulk orders, so we have more power to negotiate with them. The second important reason is that in our educational setup, in our educational ecosystem, we have more than 10,000 educational suppliers in different categories, and that number is increasing on daily basis. Every month, hundreds of companies are coming into education. But there is a challenge. Challenge is the reach out. How these companies can reach out to you, how these companies can demonstrate their products to you, how you can reach out to those companies, how you can identify and recognize good companies with wonderful products and services. It's very difficult. So here we come into picture, we understand your school, your taste, your actual requirement, your budgetary limitation. We also have category experts. We have experts who interact with different category-based companies on daily basis, who negotiate with them, who also speak to their previous client to certify their credibility. And then after doing that negotiation and certification, we recommend you right set of options. These are different areas where we are helping educational institutions: smart classroom, procurement, uniform, insurance, diesel, solar plant, language lab, security solutions, furniture, recruitment, music classrooms, healthcare, robotics, STEM, STEAM labs, career counseling, stationery, digital marketing, IT solutions, learning tools and finance. We take the guarantee that will save you at least 5 to 7% of your annual expenditures. That's kind of a 5% guaranteed additional revenue generation for your institution. Just one example, we saved 2 crore 40 lakh rupees for different institutions in one category only, that's bus insurance. We are perhaps India's largest school bus insurance partner. Some examples like 8 megawatt plus solar installation we have done in 2019, 3,000 plus bus insurance, 400 plus smart classroom, 2,000 plus cameras, 350 plus training programs, 56 old buses uniformly for 42 schools. We aim to reach out to 10,000 institutions. We need your support, your guidance, your blessings. With this, I'll end my talk here. So, Dr. R.P. Pandey, you have to join. So, with this, we directly come to the last part of the session, which is the question part. I have already received many questions. I'll straight away start presenting. I would request Sunil sir, if I may present the first question to you.
Can you share the question?
Right, sir. So, question has been asked by Ms. Shivali Narula. Shivali ji is a coordinator with Venkateshwara Global School, Rohini, Delhi. The question says, she wants to know more details about project-based learning. I'm also posting the question in the chat box. Project-based learning.
Project-based learning. Okay. Gentlemen, what I'm doing since last 6 to 7 years. Suppose the class is having 36 students. The class is divided into 6 segments. Segment A, segment B, segment C, D, E, and F. And the segment is divided in such a way that we are having a group in a segment A of 6 students, so that this group may have a child good in academic, good in drama, good in debate, good in other activities, whether he's having scientific temperament, technology, and all the other things. So there is a group, it's a complete group. What we people are doing in general way is, suppose we are preparing a group according to the teacher's choice. Okay, suppose they 4 are quite good friend. So, okay, group A. So first thing is that while you are preparing a group of a student for any project, make it sure that group must have all quality. All quality, I mean to say every student must have in that particular group, from academic section, from drama section, from painting, from art and science, for debate section, for drama, from culture. So it means it's a complete group. So that group is to be provided with a project, and the output will be quite good. As I have seen in my cases, what I am doing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sunil sir. I'll come back to you. Now, I would request J.M. Rawat sir. Rawat sir, if we can have your question.
Yes, sir. Shall I speak on project learning?
No, the question I have, it's the second question I have posted in the chat box. Ms. Renu Bahari, a special educator from Venkateshwara Global School, Delhi, has asked this question. She has just written this vocational education of children with special needs. So I would request if you can highlight, the vocational education of children with special need with that NEP's perspective.
Yeah. Vocational education is not only for the challenge students, but also for the students who want to be in this stream of education. Vocational education is open for all those who are interested. So far as challenge students or the physically or mentally challenged students are concerned, many times they have very good skill and they have learned from their parental techniques, and sometimes from they learn from the environment they are living there. So if they choose a particular vocation in which their parents are interested and are ready to support them, certainly the facilities will be provided by the school as far as the NEP 2020 is concerned. And after class 6, the students will be able to cope up with the physical or mental challenges along with the learning of various skills for the vocational training. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Rawat sir. I'll come back to you. Now I would request Munappa sir, sir, if I may present the next question to you. Ms. Preeti Futela, she's the headmistress with Venkateshwara Global School, Delhi. The question is art integration important component in NEP?
Can you come again, please? I couldn't hear.
Your question in the chat box, sir, is art integration important component in NEP?
I'm not able to see that. I'm not able to hear this. I think there is something missing there.
Shall I respond?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're audible. I'm just reposting the question. Question in the chat box. Is art integration an important component in NEP? How do you see the importance of art integrated education?
I'm still not getting. I'm not able to.
Shall I respond?
Yes, sir. Yes, Rawat sir.
Yes, it is very important and is envisaged in NEP
Sir, you are on
2020.
mute.
And I think art education has been neglected since a long. They have been treated as co-curricular activities or extracurricular activities. Even in CCE, they were not treated at par with the other subjects. And I am of the opinion that for the effective domain, for the emotional growth and balance of the students, art education is very, very important and it should be treated as at par with all other subjects. So NEP 2020 includes art education as the main subject, and this is very good step taken by the framing by the presentator of all this NEP 2020.
Can I add, because I was not hearing it? Can I speak for a minute?
Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Now this will one more thing in addition to what sir has added. This will help in bringing the students together. We can have group education wherein there will be slow learners are there. So most important thing is that group education, group learning will be helpful, and in the leadership qualities and various other things can be improved with this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Munappa sir. I'll come back to you. Meanwhile, we have been joined by Dr. R.P. Pandey. Welcome, R.P. Pandey sir. Sir, after this question part, we'll invite you for a detailed perspective. But there is a question in the chat box that has Pandey sir. Do we have your presence? Dr. Pandey? I believe he has lost the connection again. Now, Munappa sir, I would request you if you can take on the next question once again. It has been asked by Ms. Ravina Rebecca. She's associate professor with the Riva University, Bangalore. What would be the effect on affiliated colleges of this policy?
Affiliated colleges means
Like
you are
colleges which
talking
are
about for
affiliated
the
with university.
teachers training related it is, or what exactly it is?
I believe she wants to understand the impact on those colleges which are affiliated with different universities. Like there are two kind of higher educational institutions. One is standalone universities. Second are the colleges, affiliated colleges.
I think with the NEP, it will continue. I don't think anything which will happen. Only what I have seen is in the teachers' education that whatever present 2 years B.Ed program that is slowly likely to close. Other than that, universities and private organizations will continue implementing various policies of NEP. There should not be any effect. That's what I feel.
Can I come in here?
Yes,
I
yes,
think
yes,
there is a provision of making them autonomous colleges. So the affiliates will go off and they will all become autonomous colleges. And what the government is saying is that each college has to make their own brand, and they have to come up into that by giving the right kind of placements and infrastructure and the right kind of teaching fraternity. So that's what they're talking about, is that mostly this system of ABC university and colleges getting affiliated to them. So it will become the way it is there in the other countries. So that's what they're looking at. That's what my reading is. I may be not too perfect, but I'm close to what it is.
So that means that they'll continue independently, or they'll be with some of the universities. How it is?
Sir, they will become independent, and each college will be allowed to give their own degrees. And then there will be, categorization of all the colleges. And then the student is free to choose which college, because the way you have other universities which are ranked, so each college would be ranked. So if in management, who's ranked this way, if in engineering, who's ranked this way, in engineering, plastic engineering, who's ranked, mechanical, who's ranked, so that ranking will come in. So there'll be a lot of inter college competition of getting that ranks, because that ranks will allow them to fix their fees, and the students would first go to such colleges. So a lot on quality and infrastructure would come in. That is there. And that is, to enable this, they are encouraging 100 top universities of the world to come and set shop in India, so that Indian universities actually have a benchmark that they have to work on, and slowly they will improve. Right now, just like Munappa sir said, and I'm also going to take that thing again. Yet, it is any politician can start and, make a university. I think that will go off, and people with that will come. I think Pandey sir will be able to give us a better sense. He comes from the college thing. Pandey sir, if you could just add on to this point.
Yeah. Thank you. Please, can you just repeat the question, because I have some network.
The question was, do you think any kind of impact on the affiliated colleges?
Okay. Affiliated colleges, I think it's not going to affect. This is just my personal opinion, because something like that, this new education policy that is going to bring like vocational education and other technical and the scientific
I think he has issues again.
Right.
But I think somewhere it says that they will have to, this affiliation system will go off.
Absolutely. So, Jaswinder sir, there is another question. Mr. Gaurav Singh of PGC Chemistry from Sumitra Model School, Sitapur, has asked, what is Parakh in assessment of board exams of senior secondary classes? A lot of people have asked this question, how this Parakh would, impact or would create a new assessment system.
So this new, they have formed a division where they go national assessment system, NAS, which is actually going to work on the 360-degree assessment of child. Okay, so what they are doing is that, what happens is that there were two challenges. If you've heard, if you remember, a lot of people are asking, are they going to be one board? Are they going to be multiple boards? So what is going to happen is this national assessment system will actually assess each and every child across the country at the same level. So later on, if you have been in one board or you go from one state to the other state, then it is not going to matter, because like they said that CBSE cannot handle so many schools. So they will have multiple of this. So what Parak is doing is Parak is setting up a national assessment system. How should you assess each and every child? And as far as it comes to talking about secondary classes, they are working on it. Parak is a system with which there will be similar kind of assessments. You see, the way we have assessments for IIM, which is all India assessments, so they will have such assessments, and students will have to go through those assessments and appear for them, and then they will be ranked nationally. And then a student from any board can go and join school of any other board, or university or college of any other board. So what they are doing is they are dividing the education, but they are bringing the levels to the same, because assessment is something that will actually benchmark their performance. So that is what Parak is actually working on. That's what it is said here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jaswinder sir. I'll come back to you. Now, I would request Sunil sir, if I may present the next question to you. This has been asked by Mr. Shobhana Vajpayee. Shobhana ji is examination in charge, PGP Biology, Sumitra Model School, Sitapur. The question is it mandatory for all the teachers to qualify for TET or CTET? What about the teachers who have good experience but not having TET?
As per my knowledge, for private schools, we are having the best teacher. We are appointing the best teacher. It is another matter whether they are qualified CTET or TET. But for the government school, it is mandatory for the state that they should go for the TET and for center CTET. As per my knowledge at present.
Right. But there were many many people who believe that good schools are also considering a score of CTET. Is it true?
Is it true? But there is a shortage of CTET and TET. That's I'm telling you. I think in my opening I told you people that in this platform, जो हमारा B.Ed का suppose 100% result is there, so hardly 7 to 8% CTET we are having every year, pass out CTET or TET, whatsoever it may be. So there is a shortage of TET and CTET.
सर अगर मैं एक चीज पूछूं, ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है?
That's I already said कि हमारा जो B.Ed वाला system है, that is very different.
चोरी वाला है सर, फुल चोरी है उसमें.
Theory वाला है. What I used to do while I'm going for any training system, the thing is this: we are imparting the knowledge, whether BSc, B.Ed. So what the thing is this: we should follow knowledge, upgrade the knowledge, use the technology, get trained according to the time and scenario and place and the demography. What that we are not doing.
सर कहीं ये टीचर्स इसको बहुत लाइटली नहीं ले रहे हैं टेट और सीटेट को?
TET and CTET. The simple thing is this: suppose a teacher is going for CTET or TET. I'm sharing an example. हिमाचल से एक टीचर जा रहा है टेट का एग्जाम देने. तो टेट के एग्जाम में that is very compulsory. You must know the geography of that particular state. He or she even don't know what is the total area of the Himachal, which is the largest district of the Himachal. Which district is having the literacy rate, which is having low literacy rate. So these are the basic things that they don't know. The thing is that that's why I'm telling that we are not updated. We are having that book is knowledge. That's all. What is all our surrounding us? You are not getting that. We are not practical. So that's why they are not going to clear all these things. And I think earlier you told that our reading habit and learning habit is reducing. So that is another factor.
Sir, that is, in fact, I'll tell you, in Coimbatore, I had taken up the assessments of teachers. We do that also with all the schools. It's a free tool that we have got. It's an online tool. And when we saw them, when we decoded the result, everywhere it is so that even teachers are not reading. And that is why the habit is not percolating down.
Yes.
Sunil sir, you know what we had to do? In our latest version, we have created a library of 150 books, created age-wise, and online the students get it, and they get it. Then when they read it, automatically it comes back to the teacher whether he has read or not, क्योंकि पूरी recording आ जाती है.
Yeah.
Reading habit अच्छी है, लेकिन एक बार पढ़ेगा तब दूसरी बार जाएगा ना. वो बच्चा पहली बार ही नहीं पढ़ रहा. The whole point. Sorry, Chinnama sir, I don't know whether Hindi. I'm sure you would understand Hindi.
Defense he better know Hindi.
Sir, defense. I work with all the army schools in India. We work with them, around 96 of them. So, I mean, I love to be with the army people. But the point is that the very first initiation of a child that he should read comes from the teacher. or comes from the mother. They say the best laptop is a mother's lap.
Yes.
A mother should read. वो घर पे, see, you can't put everything onto a teacher.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this not only with the teachers, it has to go down to the parents. कि आप अपने बच्चे को अपने, you know, if you put the child in your lap and you read a small simple story, nothing like it. As it is, the kids like to listen to stories, whether you read it or you say from your, you know, whatever you remember. But please do that.
Yes.
Let
Yeah.
me share something. You know, I'm not ashamed, but I should be ashamed of what I'm sharing. Is I have not read one storybook in my life, and I know what I've missed out. So I gather my knowledge by watching videos. But everybody doesn't have that access. So reading has to be done. And you're right, sir, teachers are not reading. Very, very, important. Please, sorry.
Right. Thank you, Sunil sir. Thank you, Jaswinder sir. We have been joined by Dr. Pandey. Dr. Pandey, do we have your presence? So before I go to next question, I would request if we can have your perspective. Dr. Pandey, over to you.
Yes, I am very much sorry because I am facing some technical internet issue. So sometime I power cut. So sorry about this. So you were asking about the.
No, I was just requesting you if you would like to share your detailed perspective on your chosen topic.
Yes, because regarding in the beginning of the session, I told that new education policy had two ends. One, that we are talking, because this is like a very challenging and it's a kind of very long way to go. So we have the both way. One way that is very good sign that is going to bring the technical vocational education scientific way. Second, we are country like India, like we can see that we have the east to west, south to north, this much population, this much diversity. My perspective to bring at the ground level of new education policy, that will be possible if we can start working from the ground root, like if we can strengthen our Anganwadi, if we can train our school teachers, okay, or if you see like in country if you see the ratio of the student and the teacher, we don't have the ratio at the optimum ratio. Second, the major problem is the finance, like government, how much financial budget that is located for this new education policy, because it is just in the beginning. We are just have the very brief draft and we are discussing. But I am very much sure that what we are discussing right now through this platform, thanks to the School Lalaji and World Education Forum, that they are combining everything and every opinion together, and it's going to be sent to the government of India. Hopefully, by reading all this thought of all the people of this platform, will bring some new hope, new implementation, and new policy, and that will bring a new success. And we have a new education system in country that is in the urgent need in this country. Because you can see in new education policy is that because a student of mathematics can study the biology student can study the sociology. And because if we have the skill-based education system from the very beginning, then probably we will have like a more job market in the market. There will be no scarcity of unemployment. Okay. So this is just my perspective, but only implementation that from my side, I will say that we need to work from grassroots in the village, in the rural area. We need to bring the good infrastructure in the school, good internet connection, Wi-Fi, good training policy to allocate the right budget to the school, maybe to minimize the differences between the private and public school. Okay. So that is just my view.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Pandey. We have got one more question in the chat box. So I would request, Munappa sir, if I may present this question to you. Ms. Pratima Rathore, assistant teacher with Navrachna Vidyani Vidyalaya, Barodara, has asked this question. What are the schemes for developing ECCE at rural areas in India in NEP?
What are they?
What are the schemes for developing early child care education at rural areas?
The theme means like now here what they have put it is that we start that whatever I have seen, like we start identifying the talents of the children at a very early age, and then there may be somebody who's good at sports, good at various other things. So this provides opportunity for us to start training them from younger age. So that is the only thing what we can see do is that we can train them where they are good at. We can identify their talent, what they are good at. As now, what is it now? Presently, parents want them to just get into the school and get marks, full marks, full marks, full marks, come first in the class, whether the child is interested in studies or not. So now here in this, we have the option to identify the talent of the child and start training from very younger age, starting from say KG level. And as I told you in the initial thing, the option which says is when the child comes to 6th standard, the child can choose what he or she wants to do. So there, everybody, teachers, parents can guide and then start preparing the child what exactly the child wants to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would also thank you, Munappa sir. I would also present the same question to Rawat sir. Rawat sir, this NEP is talking about empowering Anganwadi teachers.
Yes.
That is one way of creating a robust infrastructure for rural areas, and for that ECC part. I would request if you can highlight more on that, Rawat sir.
Yes, certainly. NEP 2020 envisions to take care of ECC in village area also. And in rural area, they will enhance their infrastructure of Anganwadi and other schools. And they will also develop school complexes. If there is a secondary school in that rural area, some centers will be established nearby that secondary school, and all these centers will be associated with the main school, and that will be called a school complex. And definite amount of funds will be provided, special funds will be provided to such school complexes and to Anganwadi centers also. And Anganwadi workers, they will be trained properly. Training centers will also be developed for the Anganwadi workers. In that way, the government plans to have sufficient funds. And if we have sufficient funds for ECCE, certainly it will go to the rural area also.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rawat sir. And big thanks once again to all the key participants, Sunil sir, Rawat sir, Munappa sir, Jaswinder sir, RP Pandey sir. And with this, we come to the end of this very, very special 157th session. But before we end this session, I would request all our key speakers if we can have your concluding remarks. And we have also established one very interesting practice, that while sharing your concluding remark, if you can also suggest one idea that you would like to execute if you get a chance to become Minister of Education. So what would be your priority that you would like to execute? So I would request Dr. RP Pandey sir, if we can have your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education?
Oh, that is really good, but yes.
No such plans.
पहले तो आप ये कोशिश करेंगे कि सारे जो कॉलेज प्रोफेसर हैं उनको इंटरनेट में कोई दिक्कत ना आए.
Ah, yes. Yes. So country like India to become education minister is not a easy job. But okay, you asked this question. Thank you for a good this question. The first thing that I will try to implement in the school to mandatory the physical education and sports should be mandatory in the primary school. The reason is that what is happening right now in the primary and the middle school, students are only studying the books, but physically they are with the time they are getting weaker in the sports. So that will make like a compulsory subject. And the second thing that I would like to bring that like after some 10th or some of the classes, the people should get a training from the military. Military in the sense they need to go for 6 months or 1 year. They take a training from the army and to learn what is the meaning of the unity and what is the meaning of the hard work and what is the meaning of discipline and what is the meaning of patriotic, real meaning of the patriotic to build a new nation. So this probably I will try to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's what Israel does. That's what Israel does.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. You said in the beginning, like it's not easy to become education minister in India, but after looking at the kind of ministers we have in different states, education ministers we have in different states, I believe becoming education minister is easier, rather than delivering as an education minister, or continuing as a minister of education and delivering in that part. So big thanks, Dr. Pandey, for sharing your views. Now I would request Jaswinder sir, sir, if I may request you for your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education?
Yeah, thank you, Rajulji. So my first point would be on the concluding remark on what I think about NEP 2020. See, all said and done, it's a great piece of policy, which would definitely take us way ahead. But it's a huge mandate. We should not get scared or baffled. We should break it down into small pieces and achieve one after the other. We have time to achieve it. We should not rush it in and say that this is not possible. If there's a will, there's a way. And there's nothing in this policy that can't be achieved. There's nothing that our country needs somebody from outside to come and help us out. We ourselves, if we devote our self and the way things have to be done, and without worrying about how will we finish it, how will we complete it, how will we reach the end, or where is the end of the tunnel, let's go piece by piece and take this entire thing as a piecemeal. So that's what I would say. Great thing, though it has come after 34 long years, it is worth the wait. Let's do it. Let's not crib about what has not happened up till now. There will be certain things that we may not be able to do it, but there'll be ways to do that. When there are so many people, so many education, such a lot of brain that is working on this project, on this policy, I'm sure we will reach on to that. That's one. Coming on to the minister part, but before that, I would want to talk about one important thing. You see, I have earlier also said, Sunil sir, Chinnappa sir, Rawat sir, and Pandey sir, that whatever kind of infrastructure we built up, whatever money we bring in, unless we have the right kind of teachers joining in, I don't think this can be handled. You've all talked about it. Rawat sir, you talked about qualified teachers. Sunil sir, you've talked about, teacher training. Munappa sir, you talked about, why is it that we are getting people not by choice? We need to get people by choice. I'm very happy that integrated 4-year B.Ed has come in. So right from the beginning, the child or the learner knows that I intend to become a trainer. So let me start working on it. And that's where the passion comes in. Not that this is the last choice, I don't have anything to do. That's one thing. But more than that, how do we attract the right kind of talent to become the part of, or become a part of the teaching fraternity? Is first by paying them right. Second, by giving them due respect. Our teachers need to be respected. Our teachers need to be recognized. Our teachers need to be the best. That's important. You see, if you go to the US, people who want to do PhD are supposed to go and teach along with that. They become teaching assistants. Such things should be encouraged. And if we want to get the right kind of people, we need to pay them well. I'll give you, around a month back, or maybe around 20-25 days back, in the newspaper Chinnappa sir, there was an article which said that, in one of these Scandinavian countries, there were these engineers and doctors who were paid less than the teachers there. They all went and complained to the mayor of that place. Said, why are we paid less than the teachers? We do this, we do that, we build roads, we build bridges, we do have, take care of the health of everybody. There was one straight, simple, one-line answer. You know what the answer was? Because you are common people. That means teachers are not common people. Do not compare yourself. They are the ones who develop you. They are the ones who work on you. They're the ones who develop or create the future of the country. So just don't compare yourself. And that is the kind of thing that